Hi guys, I'm just going to do a video this evening about the monthly haul for September. I know this one is a little bit overdue now, but I thought I'd go back and do some retrospective videos about this because to be honest, I haven't bothered with getting all the books down that I've managed to amass over the last couple of months. So this one's going to be in regards to September. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go through the 3 different levels. So Audible, Kindle and physical books that I've managed to get this month for some good prices. So I'll kick it off with the first one. It is the Audible credit that I got for this month. There was no real good deals on Audible for September, unfortunately. It was a lot of sort of fictional deals that they were trying to promote, which I wasn't really interested in, quite frankly. So the brand new book that's come out the last couple of weeks is called Power and Thrones, A New History of the Middle Ages by Dan Jones. Fantastic writer, Middle Ages writer. I am listening to this at the moment, so I'll stay pending for a book review in the upcoming weeks, but this one is superb. It's quite a lengthy book. It takes you all the way from the Roman period, the later Roman period, the decline of the Western Roman Empire in the 4th, 5th century, all the way up through then until I think he said it was the end of, when did he say? He said it was the Siege of Vienna, I think it was 1683 or something like that, I think it was, he said. Yeah, so when you've got the Ottoman Turks against the Habsburg Austrian Empire in the 17th century. So yeah, so it does encompass about a millennium and a half maybe, but does give a new history of the Middle Ages, as he says. So far it's fantastic. The Roman period is really condensed and digestible. So yeah, it's fantastic so far. So full marks to Dan. That's any single book you're going to get by Dan Jones is going to be amazing. I've already reviewed, I think I've read 2 of them. One is the Templars, the other one is the Crusades, I can't remember what it's called, but that one is absolutely superb. This one, so that, excellent. Next one I'm going to have a look at, and I bought with Kindle. So this one is Black Spartacus by Sudhir Hazarin Singh. So this book, Black Spartacus, it is entailing the life of Toussaint Louverture, who was part of the Haitian revolutionary movement, very, very much inspired by the writings of the French Revolution, and led the slave rebellion uprising on the island of Haiti, or Saint-Domingue as it was called at the time. Very, very rich overseas slave colony of the French Empire and the French monarchy at the time. Later on, obviously, under the I think it was Napoleon tried to reconquer Haiti, as did the British Army as well, but were beaten back. But this concerns Toussaint Louverture, who had a thrilling life, to say the least, and looking very forward to reading this book. This is a very recent take on the life. Another brilliant book I've got is called The Black Jacobins, which is pretty much the best book, I would say, on the Haitian Revolution and the slave revolt on Saint-Domingue. So that one is pretty good, the Black Jacobins, but looking forward to reading this one. And I did get this one. It was actually on offer, so as you can see on the screen there, it says $7.99. This one actually at the time was only 99 pence, which is absolutely amazing. So I do kind of like queue them up in a wish list really, and then sort of review maybe once a month, just to see if there's any deals, if anything's come down in price, or is there any promotions on as well then. So that was a fantastic win, I got to be honest with you. The next one is the Underground Railroad. I've actually bought the Audible version since, but again, this one is on offer for 99 pence still at the moment as well. From what I've seen, it's a fantastic book, and it's a bestseller. And it's won quite a few prizes as well, a good few years ago. It's been turned into a TV series on Prime as well, so looking forward to reading, listening and watching this tale as well then. The other Kindle book I got, actually I'll go first on Kublai Khan. So Kublai Khan was the grandson, as the Khan name you're probably familiar with, Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan, who was the Mongolian warlord who effectively burst out of the Central Caucasus regions in order to, and used unbelievably advanced and effective mounted horse archers and mounted horse maneuvers and techniques to defeat pretty much everyone who came before the Mongolians and the Khanates over the course of a good few centuries. The grandson Kublai Khan was the inheritor to the great Khanate, who went on to rule China, and even expanded the Genghis's original sort of boundaries and push the Mongolian army further into the Middle East, Eastern Europe, further down the steppes region and throughout Asia as well. One of the biggest empires the world has ever seen, probably one of the biggest land masses as well ever assembled, I would say, as well, by any empire in the world. So very interested in reading a little bit about Kublai Khan. And then the last one, it is by the same author, John Mann. This one is Saladin. So Kublai Khan I did get it for that price there. That was $1.99, but Saladin, at the time I did buy the book, it was only 99 pence, so I did pick it up for quite a good bargain too. Saladin, if you've seen my Hattin video, then you know Saladin was the sword of Islam, the conqueror of the Franks. Ironically, probably made war on his fellow Muslims as much as he did on the Frankish Christians in the Eastern Outremer, the Eastern Kingdom, the overseas kingdoms, Kingdom of Jerusalem, Antioch, and the like. I think I got this book mainly just because I want to read a little bit more about the character of the man himself. A lot of the books I've read, he's obviously a major player in the period, but for prioritising events of books over the actual character of the individual, I thought I'd buy this book to study the character of him a little bit more than just obviously ramping through the events of the Crusades themselves. So that's everything to do with all the digital stuff. So Audible's done and Kindle is done. So on to the physical books I got. So I was very, very fortunate actually. I went to a charity shop and I picked up some amazing deals. So one of them, the first one I got, was called Wellington by Richard Holmes. Richard Holmes is a fantastic author of the Napoleonic era. I've got another book of his upstairs. It's more of like an illustrated version of the Napoleonic Wars. Wellington, as people probably know, one of Britain's greatest generals, went on to become Prime Minister later on in the 19th century as well. Wellington defeated Napoleon at Waterloo, along with the Prussian, Belgian and Dutch allies as well. Because I think everyone thinks it's just the British army that fought Napoleon. It wasn't. It was a lot of our European allies as well, particularly the Prussians and the Dutch, Belgians, who helped win that day. Wellington, the Iron Duke, goes on to pretty much talk about his upbringing in Ireland. A lot of fantastic British generals from this time period were Irish. Particularly Wellington himself, born in Ireland. Got people like Lord Castlereagh as well, Irish. A lot of good Irish statesmen and people, pretty much made the British Empire in this time as well. But yeah, looking forward to reading more a little bit about the personality of the man himself, his upbringing, his Peninsular War, which is the war where the British invaded Portugal and Spain, and assisted the Portuguese and Spain in fighting back the French, who had conquered the countries and tried to impose a Bonaparte on the throne of Spain. So that one is done. So that one I picked that one up and the next book actually. These were two. What was it? It was like two for £2. So this is another fantastic one encompassing the Spanish Empire. This is by Robert Goodwin. It's called Spain, the Centre of the World from 1519 to 1682. So this effectively deals with the Spanish overseas territories and the Spanish empire as such from 1519 to 1682, because Columbus going to the New World was 1492, whereas in 1519 effectively the first colonies in the Caribbean and in New Mexico as well. I say New Mexico, New Spain I should say, which is old, in Mexico, as we call it now. That's where they were erected on the destruction of the old Aztec Empire and the Taino people of the Caribbean as well, unfortunately. So looking forward to reading that one. The next book I've got, it is by Brad Meltzer. This is called The First Conspiracy, The Secret Plot to Kill George Washington. So this book is a fantastic account of the first conspiracy. I'm just trying to find the name, if it's the right one I'm thinking of. There was numerous plots on Washington's life, and the TV series Turn is actually fantastic in portraying the amount of clandestine fighting that was going on between spy agents of the British Empire, which led by Major John Andre, and then the spy ring of Benjamin Talmadge, who was the Continental Army colonel, who was leading a ring to combat the British, who were based in pretty much conquered territory, which was akin to like New York, Long Island, areas such as that, Upper New England as well, and moving on then wherever they conquered, say Philadelphia, and then the Carolinas as well then. So yeah, but this book in particular deals with the secret plot to kill George Washington, where the British themselves had embedded and had turned people within Washington's own camp to try and betray him, so that they would then go on to eliminate, cut the head off the snake as it was, and remove Georgie Boy, as they would call him, from the Continental cause, for a general who was either not up to scratch, or maybe a general who they could exploit. They could probably have exploited Benedict Arnold and his tempestuousness. They would definitely sort of burrowed him with General Gates in the Continental Army, who was pretty much a bit of a grey figure, who had sort of chucked his lot in with the Continentals, but was definitely sort of flashing his eyes at the British as well, just in case the war didn't go too well for the Continentals. But thankfully George Washington did live and became one of the most important people in history there on in. So yeah, fantastic book, looking forward to reading that. The guy Brad Meltzer's got another book about Abraham Lincoln, about the Lincoln assassination. So I'll probably pick that one up at a later date, albeit it's probably not as I don't know whether I can say it, probably not as bad as the assassination plot on George Washington. I think that there's good reasons why Lincoln had garnered a little bit of hostility towards himself, shall we say. Anyways, I'll move on to the next three books. So the next three books I picked up, they are part of the Essential Histories textbook range. They are published by Osprey Publishing, and so far I believe there's around 70 different textbooks focusing on major conflicts in the world, from all the way through recorded history. So everything from Rome's wars against Hannibal and Carthage, all the way to the Napoleonic Wars, World War II, World War One, the Boer War, which is the one I've got here. So the Boer War, 1899 to 1902. So the Boer War was effectively a war in South Africa between this time period, fought primarily between the colonies of the British Empire in South Africa at the time, along against the Afrikaner settler colonies in South Africa. This was effectively the precursor to World War One. A lot of developments in this time period, military tactics, innovations of war, for good and for ill, such as the concentration camps were invented during this war, particularly concentration camps in order to house Afrikaner families, and safe to say the hostility is still there, to say the least. So this is a very, very important war, albeit later on that the South Africans and these colonies who were defeated were incorporated into the South African, not so much nation, but the Commonwealth of South Africa later on, who were very much part of the British Empire until later on when they opted for independence away from the British Empire. But anyways, so this is the first one, the Boer War, 1899 to 1902. This is number 52 of the Essential Histories range. Like I say, these books are not cheap at all, but what I will say is I've probably got about 50 of these books now, and it is a very, very good investment. Particularly, I'd love to teach history, and I think that they are brilliant starter manuals, and they give you everything from character information to actual battlefield plans, as well as the narrative of the war, and picking up on little pieces of information as well then about, like you said, different innovations during the war, why things happened a certain way, what were the impacts, what were the after effects of the war as well, which is quite important. The other one I've got then, which is number 72 of Essential Histories, this is the Jackabout Rebellion. So the Jackabout Rebellion, I've done a book review actually on Culloden before, so this would encompass Culloden. The Jackabout Rebellion is effectively the last gasp of Stuart claims to the British throne. The Stuart family were ousted in 1888-89 in the so-called Glorious Revolution of that time. Very much an issue around religion, as well as absolute monarchy versus absolute monarchy versus constitutional monarchy, and from that point on, Britain had invited, quote unquote, William of Orange, who was the Prince of the House of Orange from Holland, to rule Britain as William the First. Was it William the First? Yeah. And thereon after, the inheritors of this lineage would then be the Hanoverian line. So this is where we get Elizabeth II's current family lineage from the Hanoverian line of this part of the dynasty. And in the Jacobite Rebellion, you have the Stuarts reinvading Scotland with Bonnie Prince Charlie, who was effectively, you would say, the rightful king of Britain, but being a Catholic, being brought up a Catholic, living in France his whole life, took to the Scots. The Scots sided with him, invaded England, decided not to go any further. I believe it was Derby that they decided to convince Charles to turn around and head back to Scotland, and at that point all momentum was lost and destroyed, and culminated in the final battle of Culloden, which effectively settled the crown once and for all, and was the last major battle on between competing powers on British territory, on a battlefield thereafter. So the Jacobite Rebellion, just telling you some key players. Like I said before, my other Culloden video, the picture is a load of bullshit, really. But like I say, watch my Culloden video, you'll understand what I mean by that one. So yeah, number 72, the Jacobite Rebellion. And the last one, this one is, I'm actually going to do a video about this very shortly. This is the French Religious Wars, 1562 to 1598. A very, very neglected area of history. One that we British probably wouldn't comprehend too much, and we wouldn't have too much of an idea about what that was about. The sort of the giveaways in the name. This one is number 47, by the way, just to let you know, of Essential Histories of French Religious Wars. So the giveaway is the French Religious Wars. So with the advent of with the advent of Protestantism, particularly Calvinism and Lutheranism. Martin Luther, the famed priest who nailed his proclamations to the church door, and his grievances sparked off the Reformation. This is a byproduct of that, as well as a part of the old, how you could say, the old the old Middle Ages coming into the sort of the more modern era, where you had the actual state of the French state, as it were, was beginning to take shape. Whereas in the past, you would have little fiefdoms, little interconnected ways of paying homage to one king or another, or one lord or another, and then having competing lords fight each other as a domestic civil sort of strife. That was beginning to become, this is the sort of the last gasp of that, and the religious aspect of these wars really did mask the sort of what you could consider more of a civil war in France, I would say, at the time, between competing dynasties for the throne, the French throne. So you have the Valois kings, who were the kings going all the way back from the death of Charlemagne, the great sort of unifier of Europe in the 900s. Sorry, actually, before that, sorry. And then coming up to the more this era here, where the Valois dynasty pretty much was being extinguished by ineptitude and mismanagement, and unfortunately lack of maturity as well. But then you have a lot of players at this time, such as the Guise family, Catherine de Medici as well, who was the queen mother of a couple of these kings here, as well as then the advent of the house of the House of Bourbon. Sorry, so you have the House of Bourbon, who would later then become the French royal family. Was pretty much kicked off with the King of Navarre. So Navarre was a kingdom within on the border between France and Spain. Effectively Navarre was the area of the Basque country in northern Spain, and Henry of Navarre would then become Henry IV of France, and effectively would conquer the nation in which he would then rule as king. It's a very, very, I will say, it's a very, very convoluted topic, but I found it very enjoyable for, it's a blind spot, it's a historical blind spot for myself, and I thought, as soon as I bought it, I thought, I'm going to read that's the first thing I'm going to read, just to sort of find out a little bit more information about this, and about what this conflict was all about, the main players in it, how many conflicts there were, and there was a lot of changing sides, a lot of shifting alliances, backstabbing, religious strife, and one of the things that is very well known for is the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, where there was a huge massacre of Protestants by Catholics that went unrestricted for quite a while, and it lived long in the French memory, even up until the Revolution of 1789, where the revolutionaries in Paris had warned people of a new Bartholomew's Day massacre, when the king had invited troops from Flanders into the city in order to potentially put down any civil strife in Paris. So yeah, it's one of these ones that lives very long in the French psyche, in the French memory, and it entirely didn't get resolved within this time period of 1562 to 1598. But these conflicts effectively rendered what was at the time the most advanced nation, the most productive and strongest military nation. I say nation, but territory, I would say. There wasn't a concept of an actual national identity as yet. There was a lot of different languages in France at the time, such as Occitan in the south, Breton up in the northwest, and just regular sort of, I would say, Middle French in the northern areas of France at the time as well. Then, but yes. Anyways, enjoyable book. Like I say, this is number 47 of the Essential Histories. Osprey Publishing textbook. So yeah, fantastic, by Robert J. Knecht. I'll be doing a video on this particular one very shortly. But yeah, that's everything so far for the month. That was September. So I hope you enjoyed the books that I got there. And if you've got any comments at all, please let me know. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and gave me a like on the video as well. And by all means, pick up a couple of these books. Let me know what you think as well then, and we can compare notes on it as well. But yeah, I hope you like the books that I chose, and if you've got any recommendations